Okay, I'm going to try and make I'm not sure whether it's going to be one long video or it's going to be separated into 2 or 3 videos. But I want to talk about the issue of reactivity and where it comes from, how to meet it, what to do about it. It's a kind of deep, sort of almost complex subject that affects, well, I've never met anybody who doesn't experience reactivity. So on some levels, it's just part of the human experience. But then as you get on, particularly to the spiritual journey, you keep meeting this reactivity and wondering what to do about it, because it gets in the way a lot of the time of the deeper equanimity, a deeper peace, a deeper stability. And I know certainly from my own experience and the experience of others that actually the deeper we go and the more exploration and the more kind of resolution, if you like, the more harmony that comes to us, that arises, then the less and less reactivity. So as if, at a certain point, there really isn't any reactivity. Certainly in the day-to-day life, there is no more reactivity. And that in itself is a great boon to the human experience. So I thought, because so many people who work with us and I do sessions with experience this great reactivity. So I thought I'd explore, first of all, what is it? Where is it in us? And then maybe, look at in the second part about what to do about it. So we'll see. If you can hang on in there, I've written some stuff because I wanted to get it kind of quite detailed instead of my usual, relatively free-form, free-flow sort of talks and videos. I thought I'd try and structure this a little bit and see how it gets, how far it gets us. At a certain point, I will just kind of explore in my random kind of way, which I hope you forgive me for, but not yet. So let me go through this and see what you think. Part 1. What is reactivity and where does it live? We all know that what reactivity feels like. The jolt of anger, the sting of shame, the pull to defend, argue, withdraw or control or fight. But what is reactivity really, and where does it come from? It's not just a random emotional outburst. It's an automatic response when something in the present moment touches an old pain, a fear, or a belief about who we are. It's a signal that something deeper has been stirred. And rather than meeting the moment with openness, we react from the past. We tighten, we brace, we try to protect ourselves. So to understand reactivity more deeply, we have to look at where it lives. Number 1, in the body as the nervous system patterning. The first place reactivity lives is in the body. Our nervous system is wired to protect us from danger. When a threat is perceived, even a subtle one, the body can launch into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This can happen even before thought arises. It's that fast. Thought follows, doesn't usually precede. If you were raised in an environment where you didn't feel safe, or if you've experienced trauma or chronic stress, your body may still respond to present-day situations with the same survival response. So reactivity may show up as a tight chest, a clenched jaw, shallow breath, a racing heart, And these are not just symptoms, they are the reactivity. It's that fast, it's that automatic, it's that. Number 2, in the emotional body as unfelt feelings. Underneath the physical reaction, reactivity often hides an emotional wound. Maybe you were shamed for being sensitive, or punished for expressing anger, or left alone with overwhelming fear. Those feelings don't just disappear, they go underground. So when someone criticizes you now, it's not just about them. It touches a deeper wound, the old sadness, anger, or fear that was never met. The present moment becomes fused with unresolved emotion from the past. Reactivity is the echo of what was never fully allowed. My experience is that the nervous system, the subtle energy body, this reactive nervous system, can't tell the difference between what's happening now and what happened then. So it pulls then into the now because it's locked in then. There's no time in that respect for the nervous system. It's always almost always in the present moment. Number 3, it lives in the mind as beliefs and identity. Reactivity also lives in the mind, in the stories we carry about ourselves. Stories like, I'm not enough. I need to be in control. If I open my heart, I'll get hurt. These beliefs form an identity, a sense of who we think we are. And when something challenges that identity, the mind reacts. It might defend, justify, blame, or spin out in mental loops. But beneath all the thinking is usually one core movement, the need to protect the self-image. Number 4, it lives in the energy field as egoic contraction. At the deepest level, reactivity lives in the energetic contraction around a separate self, the me who feels threatened by life. This is the egoic self that needs things to go a certain way in order to feel safe, validated, or in control. When life doesn't go according to plan, someone disagrees, a relationship changes, a plan fails, that energetic contraction tightens, the me contracts. And that contraction is reactivity. But the beauty is, none of this is a mistake. Reactivity shows us where we are still protecting something. It's a doorway, a flare in the dark saying, come closer, something here wants to be met. So that's a very almost surface, but not kind of pointer and opening to what reactivity is and where it lives. It lives in the body as nervous system patterning or programming, we could say, held onto in the nervous system. It's called the nervous system for that very reason in many ways. It's nervous system. It's kind of got hold of the nervousness, the nerves of the body. And those nerves have an intelligence in them, and they're somewhat of a storage house. And they store up experiences. They store up experiences, and we're designed for experience, the energy of experience to flow through us. But obviously in youth, in our fragility and vulnerability of youth particularly, the nervous system energy chamber in its vulnerable state, in its sensitive state, when we're met with, you know, difficult experiences or trauma or wounding or neglect or anger or, you know, misperception or judgment, and you know, it comes into us and we have a reaction, but that energy of the reaction doesn't just flow through us, it gets stuck in us. And it's what gets stuck in us on the energetic level that we experience then subsequently through our lives as reactivity. It makes sense. And then, of course, in the emotional body, that will manifest as unfelt feelings, because we carry the unfelt feelings, the unfelt emotions, the unmet experiences, the unmet anger, pain, rage, grief, trauma, wounding, you know, of the past. We carry that around in a bag. We all know that, the shadow bag, you know, the bag of woes, the bag of grievances, that which we carry around. There it is. When that gets activated by an internal thought or an internal experience, but particularly by something in the external plane, somebody says something, somebody does something, some shock comes in from the outside, in, you know, a million different ways. We all know what this means. You know what this means. I know what this means. Then it triggers those unfelt, unmet feelings, usually below the surface. Most people, it's happening below the surface. They don't have access to it. There's no real access or insight or awareness even of it, just caught in the reactivity loop. It's a very dangerous loop to be caught in. Very dangerous, potentially, as we see writ large in road rage, in violence, in domestic scenes, in, you know, people do things that in many ways they wouldn't ordinarily do in many ways, you know, but in the heat of the moment something happens. I heard this statistic that 80%, or I don't know what, 80 some percentage, high percentage, it shocked me, of inmates in prisons are there because of reactivity, because they acted in a flash, in the moment, not out of premeditated, not out of some planned thing. Of course, there are lots who have, you know, but this is, a lot of them are in the moment. And it happens, you know, because as we've said, in the emotional or the energetic body, you know, reactivity of the innermost, the nervous system energy body, is going to act before thought. That means before we intervene, even before we get a chance to think about what we're doing, we've done it. Blind rage is the height of reactivity, right? Blind rage hasn't got a thought in it. It's not a reaction comes in and then there's a thought, well, I'm going to do this, you know, and I better think about this because there are consequences to it. Blind rage is ignorant, unaware, unconcerned with consequence because it hasn't got any thought in it. So much reactivity doesn't have thought in it. Thought comes later. It's important to know. And so that's in the emotional body. In the mind, the beliefs that we carry, I'm not good enough, I need to be in control, if I open my heart, I'm going to get hurt. You know, all of these form an identity, the identity of the me, walking around in this world, all these separate me's that walk around in the world, bumping up against other equally separate me's who are also caught in the trap of beliefs and identity and not good enough and need for control, and we're all bumping around each other like dodgems or triggering each other at some point to wonder we haven't all killed each other. But we get on, right? We get on, except there's the cause of suffering for so many people, is some of that reactivity. It can lie dormant and it can express itself in all sorts of ways. It doesn't have to be blind rage or anything. It could be internalized. This is what it's saying. I'm not enough. I need to be in control. If I open my heart, I'll get hurt. Yeah, serious. And then, as it says in the number 4 is in the energy field as the egoic contraction, the me. We just talked a bit about it. The me, who needs to protect itself from life because there is inherent belief that life is threatening. And then we look at the world and it seems to confirm and affirm the threat. So we're already caught in the belief that life is dangerous and is a threat. Therefore, the me needs to feel safe and validated, in control, navigating its way, maneuvering its way through life. This is an energetic contraction that we experience. But so before we conclude this first part, which is what is reactivity and where does it live, there is the final point, which is that there is nothing wrong with reactivity. It's not a problem. It's not a fault. Nobody's done anything wrong. It's a consequence. Reactivity is almost a natural consequence of the kind of life that we live, of the kind of conditioning that we've experienced, the kind of bringing up that we've experienced. Most of us have been born into some kind of dysfunctionality, with parents who are carrying their own reactivity. Some reactivity is passed on generationally through cellular memories and through behavior, of course, those two things. So we're the recipients of some of this, this reactivity, and then we're brought up in less than optimal households, even though everybody has maybe tried their best, hopefully. And then we experience the retraction and there it is, but that's not, nobody's done anything wrong in that. It's just the reframing to actually bring the issue of reactivity much more into focus, much more into a loving embrace, conscious awareness, I might say. And I know it's a hot topic because there are lots of somatic processes and they're all really good. But I'm not talking about the somatic work that you can do, and all of that is really useful. I'm just talking about bringing much more awareness, the spiritual depth, the inquiry into your reactivity. The inquiry into reactivity says, where is it and what is it, and how am I going to meet this on a deeper conscious level, from the conscious awareness of I, the I that is awareness itself. Because it really helps when the somatic work is held in the bowl of love, in the bowl of awareness, in the bowl of meditation, in the bowl of a deeper equanimity. Then those two things kind of tend to start softening up this addiction or fixation or habit of reactivity. So reactivity shows us where we are still protecting something that we imagine needs protecting. And then we have to ask ourselves, does it really still need protecting? Or can I start letting it go? And that's an important inquiry to make, because it might be that what worked and what served its purpose for many, 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 many years can now afford to be let go, and we can gamble with the grace of openness. It's a doorway, a flare in the dark saying, come closer. Something here wants to be met. That's the first part. So let's see. Let's keep going with this, and I've got some more things to read. Part 2, how to consciously explore reactivity. I think the more we can almost focus in and actually, get into the roots, into the deepermost, bring it to conscious awareness. I think this is, very helpful. I hope so, because reactivity, the more you think about it, the more everybody seems to everybody seems to suffer from it one way or another. It gets in the way. It gets in the way of so many things, and that getting in the way we see as a problem. But the invitation is to see it as a doorway, an opportunity to enter. Part 2, how to consciously explore reactivity. So how do we work with reactivity in a way that brings healing rather than more conflict? Here are 3 pointers: not to fix or to get rid of reactivity, but to explore it with a deeper presence. 1. Notice the reaction without judging it. The moment you feel yourself getting triggered, pause. Just notice what is happening. Now it's hard because we've just said in the previous video, it can happen in a flash. Not all triggers are going to happen in a flash. Some of them come up. It's like a veil, isn't it? It's like a veil that comes over us. We think we're present and something's happening, and actually by the time we've even got to it, the veil, is down, and we've become like an automaton, a sort of robot, a triggered robot or something, or a triggered entity. And it's like we realize in retrospect, it's like, wow, what happened to me? But that's not always the case. So when it's a lower scale trigger, let's say, notice what's happening. The more we can notice, the more we notice, the more you start to notice. And so don't be just resigned to it. Triggers are boom, and leave them there. It's like there is an opportunity in all triggers. Yeah. So start out where we can start, the soft trigger. Yeah, the thought, or something incoming, or something on the email, or on the text, or something you see. I mean, it happens all the time. Somebody's going to argue with you. Somebody's going to say boo. Somebody's going to say, yeah, you're this or that. I experience it all myself. And but so wait and look, see, feel the body. Stay in awareness. I mean, the more we can carry awareness around with us, not just as something we do on the cushion or some special moment of meditation, but actually always, then the more likely we are to see, hold on a minute, something's shifted, something's different. I feel different. There's a trigger on its way. Feel the body. Is the tightness happening? Heat? Is heat coming up? Heat usually starts here, coming up through the neck. Yeah, a lot of people have the neck heat starting to come up. A heat. The volcano is rising. Feel it. Or numbness. You're just sort of getting numb. Notice the thoughts starting. Is there a story coming? Is there a secret story? Notice the emotion. The emotion, is there some sadness arising? Is there some fear arising? Some grief, some rage? Is there some heat of rage rising? See these. Can you be in this without labeling it as wrong? Because it's when you label it as wrong almost that it creates another distance from it, because you're not owning it. There's no real ownership in reactivity. It's almost like we've abdicated, our conscious presence. We abdicate it, yeah, and then it's almost like we're acting, outside ourselves, almost outside the true integrity of us. Which is why people in jail and stuff, can almost say, I don't know what came over me. I don't know what I was actually doing, because I'm not ordinarily like that. And there it is. There's the kind of indicator, and I think that's, that happens to a lot of us. I certainly have seen in the distant past, really, in some of my more reactive experiences and moments, where I've thought, wow, that was a bit unusual. That was I don't normally do that. This is how we move away from ourselves. And so presence is staying within ourselves, is cultivating awareness all of the time, so that when the heat rises, when the trigger comes, we're more likely to be able to see. Slowly, we start seeing the rising of reactivity. The moment of non-judgmental awareness breaks the automatic cycle. It creates space between you and the reaction. And in that space, something deeper than the reaction can be known. And that's our authority. So we can, court our authority. This doesn't happen immediately. It happens by and by. It's a path that we walk, not a destination that we arrive at. Number 2, ask, what is this protecting? Reactivity always protects something tender underneath. Instead of blaming yourself or the other, turn inward and ask, what is this reaction protecting? What vulnerable part of me is needing love or safety right now? Often, you'll find a younger aspect of yourself, scared, hurt, confused, still trying to survive the past. By meeting that part with care instead of more reactivity, you begin to unravel the pattern. Always something underneath. Some vulnerability, some tenderness, some hurt, some wound, some anger, but all in the past. We're all living in the past, man. All living in the past. As long as there's reactivity, we're in the past. The nervous system lives in the past till it's cleaned out, till it's dissolved of that tension, that constant tension. Until then, we're dragging the past around in our bodies, in the cellular imprint, in the subtle energy body imprint, in the nervous system imprint, in the emotional body imprint, in the mental imprint, in the egoic imprint, carrying that around. And it's okay as long as we organize our lives accordingly. But life's unpredictable. Life knows us better than we know ourselves. And it comes at us. And at some point, inevitably, we're going to be met with something that activates the old body, the old emotion. And then we can get lost so easily. And things happen. It creates a suffering for us. I see people and work with people who experience this reactivity, and it causes suffering, particularly when you get onto the spiritual path, and particularly in a way on the non-dual path, because there's such a yearning for equanimity, such a yearning for openness, a constant openness, such a yearning for a living from awareness, and the grace of awareness, which is a kind of love, and so, but inevitably, the more you open, certainly on the gradual path, or the slower path, or the quiet path, then this reactivity kind of comes in and blows a big hole in all of that grace and all of that equanimity and all of that awareness. And that creates suffering, because the more you see it, the worse it is in many ways. When we're unconscious, it sort of doesn't matter so much because we're unconscious. But the more coming to consciousness you are, then the more you see how you lose it, how you fall off, how you get lost in the reactivity. And so that creates that juxtaposition. It's jarring. Yeah? Openness, closedness, openness, closeness, awareness, lost, awareness, reactivity. These two things seem to kind of, butt up against each other. But that is the dance. That is the dance that we're called upon. Which is why I'm doing this, to bring more awareness to this dance and not see it as bad, awareness good, reactivity bad, must get rid of it. The two need to kind of just, fall into, one dissolves the other and one informs the other. All that reactivity is doing is informing us where there's still some stuff. Nobody's blaming anybody for it. It can't be helped. It's just the way that it is. So we deal with it. Number 3, let the energy move in awareness. Reactivity is energy. It wants to move. But we often suppress it or act it out. Either way, we stay stuck. Instead, try this. Feel the energy directly. Let it move through your body. Let it tremble, burn, vibrate without resistance, without control. You're not trying to fix it, simply letting it be felt in the light of awareness. When the reaction is felt without being fed, it begins to dissolve. What's left is presence, clarity, and sometimes a softening into peace. See how we do have the opportunity, the more we penetrate the experience with our awareness, then the more we have the opportunity to do this, to simply feel it without naming it, without giving it a thought, without justifying it, without abdicating from it, without projecting it outwards. It's your fault, it's your fault. Because even if it's somebody's fault, we're still left with the reactivity. That's the thing that you're kind of, it's hard to understand in relationship, for instance, because we're caught in the duality and we funnel up into self that needs to protect itself in all the ways that I've talked about throughout this video. And your partner triggers it in some kind of way. And then it's like, well, you shouldn't have done that. Or when you did this, when you said that, it triggered me. So you shouldn't be. The implicit notion is you shouldn't be saying that. But the problem with that is, even if the partner doesn't say it, it's still in you. Because the dormant trigger, the dormant unmet emotion, the dormant unresolved stuff of the past is still in you. So the partner might have been the trigger for it, but the trigger could just as easily be out there, which is why we need to take great responsibility for our own reactivity. Never mind what the partner is doing. Work that out or not work that out. But while we've still got something that can be activated and pull us into the battle of duality, the battle of self that plays itself out so often in relationship, the battle of two selves jostling for power or domination or expression or freedom or love. But while that's playing itself out, and we're not taking full responsibility for our own reactivity, then it never gets resolved. That's, just seems to be a fact. Excuse me. So this an invitation. Reactivity isn't a problem. It's an invitation. An invitation to meet the places in you that have been left out of love. To bring compassion where there was once defense. To awaken presence where there was once contraction. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And reactivity, when explored with honesty and care, can be a sacred doorway back to your true self. So what we've talked about in this second part is, where is it? Oh. Notice the reaction without judging it. Ask, what is it that this is protecting? Who is this? What is this that's so vulnerable that it needs protecting in this kind of way? Explore it. Let the energy move in awareness. It's, this is a beautiful exploration, because if we can really start to untangle reactivity, then I think that we're really starting to get somewhere. All practices can support this, all practices. But ultimately as well, if all of those practices can be held in the bowl of a kind of deeper meditation, if you like, I don't mean meditation where you're trying to get rid of thoughts or mantras or anything like it. I simply mean by meditation, sitting and feeling the energy body. Right now, just sit. Feel the energy body. So you start, the more subtle you get, the more access you start to have to presence. This is all presences. It's just being here now with whatever is arising, just thisness. It's always just thisness. You can feel the tingling sensation of the body. You can feel the energy of the body. You can feel the gut. Feel the belly. Just see. In this moment, is there any reactivity? Is mind active or passive? Is emotion being stirred by these words or by a feeling? Something, some argument? Or is everything calm? See, this is, and if it's calm, then this is it. This is the true nature. The true nature is calm. True nature is quiet mind. Equanimity of emotion. Nothing. Silence. Stillness of the body. The inner movement. There is none. Silence of a beingness. No movement. And you carry that everywhere. You carry that into experience. Carry conscious presence into experience. And of course you're going to forget until you don't. So there we are. That's part 2 of the exploration of reactivity. I hope this has spoken to you. There might be a part 3 coming. I'm not sure. Let's see. So I think in this final part, this is just me talking a little bit about it, to bring it out of the left brain, out of the linear model into the very humanity of our lives, and to see that in these, particularly maybe in these kind of societies that we're in, we're very conditioned in so many ways and brought up in so many ways that reactivity is almost imbued into us, isn't it? So it's inherent. It's somehow part of the fabric of society that we carry around. And I don't want to be one who kind of just dismisses that, and says, oh, reactivity is a real bad thing, but reactivity is our doorway to conscious presence. Reactivity is our doorway to conscious presence. That's the fundamental of it. To stop pushing it away, seeing it as a negative, saying it's bad, and almost keeping it there without actually becoming deeply intimate with it. It's a courtship. The reactivity. You have to understand. We have to get to grips with this. That life is intelligent. We're not in control of life. Life is an intelligence arising through us, and part of that intelligence is that everything that rises within us, every energy that arises in us, is seeking resolution one way or another. And if we see it in that respect, then reactivity becomes, something that's not just a thinking thing or an emotional thing, but actually starts to become an energetic aspect of us. And that energy is arising through us in the form of reactivity, because actually it's trying to get to the light. Now, if it can't, unfortunately with that, is like if we're stuck in unconscious patterning, nervous system, emotional, mental patterning, then as that reactivity rises up, it doesn't come to resolution. It only comes to expression. It only comes to the surface, and then it's actually pushed back down again because it's not met with conscious awareness. This is the point of conscious awareness, which is love, which is openness. This is how the trigger, if energy of the trigger gets to some sort of resolution. It doesn't have to reach expression, because by the time it reaches the top of the reactivity, it's not actually going anywhere. It's just the reactivity. So in some ways, we need to become more intimate with it, more intimate as conscious awareness, as presence. So we stay in it, and by you get to see how reactivity is rising up in you. I remember an experience I had maybe about 8 years ago when it was still carrying some reactivity, and it was with Amodama, my wife, teacher. We were in an old house, and something had happened, and I have not any idea what, because generally you don't remember what had activated me, but something had insulted me, and I'd taken umbrage, and I was in grievance, and I was like, I could feel it rise, the insult rising up in me, and I just started to become obstinate, separate, angry, rising up. And it wasn't over something that was particularly important, as far as I was certainly looking back. It was a nothing burger, rising up. And I was standing in the kitchen. I could feel it was going to erupt into an argument. I was going to start a fight over it on some level, not a physical fight, but just an emotional one. And then something happened, and this sort of heat rose up. And as it rose up, I actually saw it. And I remember thinking to myself, what would happen now if I just dropped it? If I just didn't follow it through? What would happen here if I just didn't follow through with the addiction, with the compulsion to follow it through? Because it's just another movement of energy. It's just like an addictive motion. Yeah, the addiction, when you have to intervene at some point in your addictive aversion, that mechanism that's going on, and the more awareness you can have of the rising of the wave of desire and the falling of the wave of desire, Yeah, then the more you're going to be able to stay in conscious presence as those waves rise and fall. But it's the same with reactivity. So I saw my reactivity rising up, and I decided I was just going to stay and not allow it, not feed it, not fight it, but just kind of say, what would happen if I just didn't react in this moment? If I just and I actually started laughing. I saw how stupid it was. I saw how out of control it was. I saw how kind of childish it was for me. You know, I saw how old it was, and I saw how useless it was, and I saw how all this energy revolved around the sense of me. The sense of me and my survival, the sense of me, as we talked about in part 1, the sense of me as an egoic entity who needs to survive. And this was a perceived threat that was coming in from the outside. She hadn't done anything. I think she just said no to something, or in the wrong way or something like that. And it was, but there was underneath, when I decided to see it and ask the question, what would happen if I didn't move, if I just stayed and didn't follow it through? And in that, a doorway opened, and I saw very clearly how it was all a structure to defend the entity that I thought was me, the egoic sense of myself, and how it was unnecessary, and that there was actually what happened really was there was a small death of the one who felt that he needed to survive, because I didn't feed it. You don't feed it, it dies. Sounds dramatic, it's very small. It's a great relief. Just like, that was wild, right? Felt it to be quite, pivotal, important. I've still remembered it to this day. I remember it because it was a reclaiming of my authority as presence, a reclaiming of the truth of myself in this small way, saying, no, not this time. I'm not going to rise up in reactivity this time. There's great presence in that, but not a great presence of like this, but just a soft presence to see as the heat of battle is rising up, as the one who is rising up from the past, rising up into the present moment, to endlessly go into reactivity was like, no, not this time. And that there was the death of the old self. Did it resolve the issue completely? It went a long way to resolving the issue completely. And then still, the self rises up. The self will always rise up while there's still a self, who has traction, who we give our allegiance to, the reactive one, the righteous one, the arrogant one, the weak one, the victim one, the aggressor one, the one who needs to protect its survival, the isolated one, the separate one, the fearful one. All of these will play themselves out. And as long as we give our allegiance to that one, then the reactive self is still in some ways alive. It may be dormant, but it's still there somehow. And at some point the reactivity or the trigger comes. It's not a problem, it's a journey. It's an invitation to a deeper journey. So I'm going to end it there. That's been a part 1, part 2, and now a little bit of a free form part 3. I hope it's spoken to you in some way, shape or form. If you did, give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe, whatever you need to do. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.